This is part 2 of the Essay Unity series for research arguments. So this is about making the base of classification that we talked about in video 1 into something that will help you have a really unified essay outline. So if you remember from the first video, having a unified essay at its core is really about making sure the thesis and the topic sentences and the evidence are all working to do one thing. And so having an outline really helps with that. Part of the reason it does really help with that is because if you're in the essay, you have so many other sentences that are saying so many other different things. And so you're kind of wading in the lake of the essay and you really can't see what's in there. If you just have this, like the skeleton of the argument, you can really see whether things match. So let's practice this with a couple of examples, but first, let's do some definition. So, outlines are tools to help you make sure your thesis and topic sentences are classified in a unified way. So, in the last video, we did a little bit of dividing up the topic sentences for this thesis statement about the benefits of peer review. We determined that the topic sentences all needed to be about benefits. And so these are the ones that are all benefits, right? So we have peer review assists students with identifying the important features of an essay. Peer review facilitates student development of a concept of audience. Peer review reinforces the skills students need to evaluate the content of their own work, and peer review encourages students to edit and proofread their essays. These are all benefits for peer review. And as I said in the last essay, this may not seem argumentative because, if you have an instructor that assigns peer review, you don't really think about like whether or not it's, the absolute best teaching strategy for something, but there is a lot of ink spilled on this topic. It's very argumentative. I totally swear. So this is an example of a unified set of a thesis and topic sentences. The basic classification is the thing that's making that very clear that this all goes together, because all of the topic sentences are about benefits, and the thesis statement is also claiming that benefits are what people get out of mixing peer review with students in college writing classes. So, basic classification. The basic classification helps you know if your thesis and topic sentences are classified in a unified way. You determine the basic classification by thinking about your topic, your purpose in writing about that topic, and your argument or thesis that will help you achieve that purpose. This is one way to start simplifying the very complex thing with all the complex sentences that you're writing into something that you can examine for the classification and unity. So let's look at an example. Curbside recycling. We're going to look at it in 2 ways. So the first is curbside recycling. Oh, whoops. No, I didn't mean to do that. I apologize. Let's go back to curbside recycling. So the purpose is to convince local citizens it's not working. And then the thesis would be curbside recycling is not working as it was originally intended to work. The base of classification being ways in which it's not working, right? You can have the same topic, but a different thesis and a different purpose and a different base of classification. You have a totally different essay. So let's check this out. So for curbside recycling, let's say the purpose is to convince voters it's had a positive impact on the environment. So the thesis would be curbside recycling has had several positive effects on the environment. And thus the base of classification would be what? What is the thing that they're arguing that curbside recycling is? Yeah, that has positive effects, right? So essentially, the positive effects that it's had is the base of classification. A lot of times you look sort of around where the verb is. Strong verbs are really important with these essays, but typically you have 2 things, right? We have curbside recycling, and then we have, the local citizens. So, what are we trying to convince those citizens of? That curbside recycling either sucks or is great, right? So the basic classification is essentially the argument. That's what you want them to have in common. So let's try this. We have the topic is social media. The purpose is to convince readers that it enhances political organizing for social movements. Let's say the thesis is social media enhances political organizing efforts for social movements. So what would the basic classification be? What argument are they making about social media and social movements? essentially, that, it enhances the ability to do something political, like their organizing efforts are improved, right? So the basic classification essentially enhances, right? Let's take social media one more time and say that the purpose is to convince readers that it causes users to develop extreme and hateful political views, which is like totally the opposite of the thesis right before it. So what would your thesis be if your purpose was to convince readers that it causes users to develop extreme and hateful political views? Social media causes users to develop extreme and hateful political views. And so the basic classification would be, I guess it should be the reasons why it does this. So how it causes it. What are the things that cause these people to do that? Pardon the slide mess up. But anyway, so this is a way that you can try to get your thesis and topic sentences to start matching. First, you just go back to the thesis and determine what your basic classification is, right? So we're going to do a classification activity that is going to help you do that, right? So here's an example. We have social media to convince readers that it enhances political organizing for social movements. Social media enhances political organizing for social movements. And so the basic classification is what? It is basically the way that it enhances it. So if you do this same thing that we had in this slide, you have your topic, your purpose, your thesis, and your basic classification, you're well on your way to finding how to frame the rest of your argument in topic sentences that are unified. So let's just do it one step at a time. So here's the things I want you to do. I want you to write down the answers to these questions. It is in your worksheet. And then from there, I want you to develop something like this, right? So we have your topic, your purpose, your thesis, and your basic classification. It's all in the worksheet. So try to work this out. And if you need to take your sources out or free write a little to try to figure out what the guts of your intention is, what you're trying to do with your writing about this topic, that's totally cool. And by the way, if it's like kind of a mess at first, it's better to be a mess in these classification activities than it is to be in the final draft of the essay. You do the activities to make sure that the final draft is super polished. So don't worry too much about it. But this is the end of part 2. We're working to get a thesis and topic sentences that match. And the way we're going to start doing that is with the topic, purpose, thesis, and basic classification, and the worksheet will take you through the rest. Okay, so that's it for now, and yeah, see you in part 3.